Goldylocks Productions broadcasts universal cosmic frequencies that unlock, awaken, and expand the consciousness of our worldwide viewers and listeners. Goldylocks Productions presents Enlightening Conversations with Pam Silver Eagle.
That's how I feel, like this. Well, welcome back to the perch, everyone. Been out flying around for a couple of weeks, and it's time to land. And so I've invited my dear soul sister, sacred soul sister, Reverend Lea Chapin, back to the show. And for those of you, she's also a host on Goldylocks Productions. So for those of you who maybe have not caught her show or haven't come across Lee's work, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my friend. So Lea is a reverend, as I said. She's a spiritual medium, a teacher, psychotherapist, counselor with decades of experience. Lea assists others along their life path with personal assistance, as well as for their spiritual evolution, soul evolution, as I call it, as my work is as well. She works with the Ascended Masters, the angelic realms, and beyond. So can't really limit, because Lea is an amazing oracle and author. Wow, she's a talented soul. And so, hi, Lea.
Thank you. That was so nice of you. No wonder I'm old and tired. I'm like I've done a lot of work.
That's right. You deserve a little time out. Pay for ourselves. Time for you to just and flow. That's right. So I thought, for those of you who maybe caught the last time I had Lea on the show with me, it's been maybe a month or so, I don't know. And, we've shared some of our journey. We were up at Rock City in New York State with our friend Joanne Gall. And we shared a little bit about that journey because we did some really wonderful ceremony and so forth. But I told Lea the other day, I said, our story in itself is pretty fascinating, how the spirit brought us back together. And we're, as each day goes by and as our journey continues, we're beginning to realize that we do have a very special connection. And certainly we have done this together before. We've played these roles in other lifetimes, and we're going to talk a little bit about how spirit brought us together, because it's kind of a fun story. And then we'll talk a little bit about our sacred adventures together. And I had posted some of those photos up on the Facebook page to just kind of entice and welcome everybody in to join us for this fun, love and light, enlightening conversation today. So I guess what I'd like to say first, as far as how we met, and then Lea, please just kind of, jump in, because Lea is so quiet. She's such a good listener. And I talk. So it's a fun balance. So please, Lea, just jump right in. But I'd like to say that, spirit, I guess we met maybe 4 years ago or so. Is that about right? It was in the spring. It was during Easter season. I remember that clearly. 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I don't know if it's been that long, honey. It might have been 3, because I did a workshop at the Crystal Bay Hotel in St. Petersburg. It's this historic hotel, and my friend Teresa and my whole group from the Sarasota, Florida area came up. And they were going to go after my gathering to the Noetic Sciences over in the Unity Church in St. Petersburg. And so I said, okay, I'll go with you. So if I hadn't taught that class, which was interesting, and if Teresa hadn't come and had wanted to go to that meeting, I would probably had not met you. But by accident, I remember, I don't want to say by accident, but there was a large gathering there, and you were standing on a chair. And Teresa was talking to you. I don't know why you were standing on a chair, but anyhow, that was crazy. You were standing on the chair, and Teresa was talking to you, and I remember you because you were standing on the chair. And you were talking, of course, you know, like you say, so, you know, you like to talk. So it's like, okay, I remember you. Well, then we left and, you know, we didn't get to visit or anything. And then this is my version. You can tell your version because, you know, I got my side, you got your side. So there was a psychic fair at the Unity Church on a Saturday morning. And I remember Spirit wanted me to go and they kept rushing me. This was really weird. And I'm like, they're like bugging me. You got to get there at a certain time, got to get there a certain time, got to get there a certain time. And I'm like, kept looking at my watch and I'm like, okay, I'll get there, you know, and I'm like talking to myself, okay, I'm talking to Spirit, I got to get there. And then I had to get to the bank so I could get some money because I was going to do, you know, pay for the readings. So I was like, okay, you know, I'm going. I'm driving down 34th Street on St. Petersburg. I'm like, okay, I'm going. You know, I'm like, they're pushing me.
I'm getting there.
It was like so weird. I was like, they were pushing me to go. And then right when I walked into the door to the Unity Church in the back where that garden area was, there you were at the door. And
the gateway.
So, so there you were. So it's like, all of a sudden I paused and it was like, if I've met you once, like if I've seen you at the grocery store, then I think I know you, like sort of weird. Like, oh, I know you. I met you at the grocery store, you know, but I'm like, I met you at Noetic Science. I'm like, hey, I know you. So you're like, what? Who are you? So it was so strange. It was like, you know, I could have like ignored you and go, oh yeah, I met her, you know, not speak, but it was just sort of like, oh, I know you. Like, and of course you're so friendly that, you know, we just sort of came together as a magnet and then the rest of the afternoon, you know, we clicked. So anyhow, it was so weird how Spirit was pushing me. So it was like, to me, all these synchronistic events of how people get orchestrated to meet each other, you know, if I hadn't done the meeting, if Teresa hadn't come and all that, then we may or may not have met. But I know that they brought us together and it was so strong that they kept driving me crazy about getting there on a certain time. Anyhow, I'll be quiet.
Well, and please, we'll just pause your version there. And I'm going to bring together how Spirit brought you into my awareness. And then that led to that moment that you're speaking of now. So like I said, it was somewhere in the spring. And I remember, so yes, we were at a Noetic Science, and my friend Douglas Bonar, one of my sacred brothers, who I love dearly. You give a shout out to Douglas and all the amazing work that he does. But the two of us were among two others, so four of us that co-created an Earth Care ministry at First Unity of St. Petersburg. And Douglas also oversees, orchestrates the Noetic Science, local Noetic Science gatherings. So it was going to be there at First Unity on a Sunday evening. And I wanted to support Douglas. And he was doing I can't remember exactly, that was a talk and a film on Thich Nhat Hanh. And the assignment we were given when Lea was referring to me being on a chair was everyone that evening we were to line up in a line. And I can't remember what the order was. It was something about where you see yourself. I can't remember what it was. Like,
yeah, I remember that part. Yeah.
Leadership into the future, or, you know, the unity, whatever the whole premise was around this talk and Thich Nhat Hanh and so forth. And so everyone was lining up, and I knew I was going to that side of the line because that's where I felt my energy, and as I see myself as a leader and a faith keeper and so forth in the sacred way. So there was a chair there, and there was something about my soul went, and you should be elevated. So I jumped up on the chair, and I can remember Teresa looking at me and she goes, I want to be next to her. So that was the first time we met. And then, you know, there wasn't a lot of interaction that night. It was, you know, so that's where we met and visually saw each other, but we didn't even talk really. We weren't sitting at the same table or anything like that. So then fast forward a little bit to the Easter season, and I distinctly remember I was cleaning in my condo, and I was listening to some things on YouTube, and I was guided right to your YouTube channel. You just appeared on the channel. I don't even know, because I didn't know your name. I didn't know anything about what you do. And there you popped onto YouTube, and it was when you were on your big tour, one of your big trips. And no, it wasn't either. I take that back. You were actually channeling Ramu. And I went, what is this? Because that wasn't in my awareness yet. And it was one of your YouTube videos, and I don't remember where you were, but that's what I remember. And I was like, oh, I'm supposed to hear this. And then I watched another video of yours and another video and another video. I'm like, okay. So,
Who
and then
is
I don't
this
know how,
person?
yeah. Well, I knew that I was supposed to, be paying attention to what you were offering. So then a little bit longer, not too far down the line, I was offering my sessions, my energy sessions at a wellness fair at First Unity. I believe it was a Wings sponsored event. And it was the end of the day. And so that's why Lee, she wouldn't have known. Lee's spirits were, her guides were pushing, nudging her to get there quickly, because I can remember I was standing, like you said, because my space was always in the rose garden under the trellis. I was standing there and I worked on what I thought was my last client. And in comes Lee through the gate. Like she's running with a little, I think he has a little hat, I don't know. And you're looking around and you go, you're the one I'm here to see. And I went,
Oh.
And she said, are you finished? And I said, do you want a session? And she said, yeah, they said I'm supposed to have a session with you. So remember I gave you your session, and it was a huge activation. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I can remember.
Yes.
I'm watching you,
I
and
do remember.
you're like this, sitting there like this,
Yeah.
and no words, of course. And I worked on you for a while, and after at the completion, I can remember you were still sitting there. I'm going, wow, I wonder if she's okay.
Did you pass out?
And you said, I've got this, they've placed this huge, do you remember, is this coming back to you now? It was some kind of adornment on your head, like what would you call it?
I felt like I was a queen, and I felt like I had a crown on my head. I remember they told me I was a world teacher.
Yes.
And it was like, I felt like I was like royalty, like, Queen Elizabeth or something. It was like, and your session was so powerful. It was like, I felt this total alignment. Like my neck was like so straight and so perfect. And it was like, you're a world teacher. Like, and it was like, oh, okay. And then I just sat there like, okay.
That I am what I am. It was, but it was like ancient, and you had this like ancient presence about you. Like, I don't even know if I want to term it. I was say like Egyptian, or I don't know a time frame, but it was that, like you said, royal, like a priestess, queen, and that you had said that, yes, you are a world teacher. They had said you are a world teacher, and it some kind of a huge activation for you, in that you knew that coming forward, they were going to, in these big time of change, that they were preparing you for what was to come in your work. So, that was the next time. And even when I did that session for you, Lee, I did not remember that we were at that noetic science thing together. But we chatted in the Rose Garden, and so you ended up being my last client. And you remember we were hanging out, and our dear sister, amazing teacher, Wayshower, Alanya Starhawk was with us. And I remember Carla came. Yes, I love you, Carla Harlan. I miss you. She brought me some nourishment to refuel, because when you spend those days, they usually are full on. And she brought me some good hydration and some fruit and some things to fuel up. And then I remember my sacred sister, one amazing shaman, Joanne Muir, walked by too, and she was, I think, going to be speaking, so she didn't get to stick around and chat. But she said, this is a powerful circle of divine sacred, females here. So we chatted, and I think we'd exchanged contact, and we scheduled a little lunch, and from there, that's kind of it. Took off from there.
And we hit it off. Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. That was a fun day. I love it when, again, the synchronistic events of spirit orchestrating people together. So if you worry that you're going to miss an opportunity, they'll put you together with those people that you need to meet. That's why, people are concerned or worry about finding their twin flames or their life partners or soulmates. It's like, if you're supposed to meet somebody, that is really important and pivotal in your life, then it's going to be divinely orchestrated. That's just my belief. I mean, it's happened to me over and over. And this story is just an example of, a sisterhood of, rekindling that's important. And you've been a really a wonderful support system for me. And, you're just so talented. And if anybody would want a session with Pam, her work is magnificent. Her energy is so pure and so loving and so kind. And it's really powerful. And that day it was like, that was a really powerful healing session for me. Probably the most powerful healing session I've ever had. And I've had, lots of healing sessions. So anyhow, putting a plug in for you, but it is of truth.
Appreciate
So
that.
call her and she will help you. And if you're open, you'll receive that initiation in terms of the gifts that you are receiving, through spirit in your own awareness, just like I did, that I was a world teacher. So it's still hard to comprehend in a sense, even though I've been teaching for a long time, but it was like I could really feel that alignment that day. So it got imprinted within me. Yeah. So thank you, Pam. Thank you.
Thank you. It's so, one of the things I love about our sisterhood is we really do complement each other in many ways. We support each other here in the very humanness of our 3D walk, and yet we are gifted wayshowers, healers, and ancient times together. We've come back to support each other, and so that we can help assist our brothers and sisters all around the globe, as well as Earth Mother. And when you find or reunited with these connections, which is happening for many of us at this time, it's so important, because it takes a lot of courage, and in these times, as magical and amazing and divine as they are, we certainly all have times where we can really use somebody that we truly trust.
Yeah.
And we know that they're loyal and that they've got your back. So I am grateful and just filled with joy to be reunited with you, my friend.
And we have, thank you, sweetheart. And we have parallel lives going on in terms of, in relationship with our parents. So, we're supporting each other in that way with our elderly parents.
And in the midst of that, when you were speaking a few minutes ago of how, spirit brings us to the right connections and the right places, teachings, etc. It's so important to be surrendered into the now. And that is quite the balance, right? Of even the divine masculine and feminine is to surrender so that we don't miss out on these opportunities. And, the things, of course, that are meant to be, as you said, I believe, even if you wouldn't have made it to over to the fair before that completely.
Yeah, on that time, they were bugging me, man. Like, get there!
They would have found another way, but that's where, and I speak often on the perch about, we are more than ever living in a time to be surrendered into the now, so that we can be centered and that we can be open to receive all the gifts, all the blessings, all the answered prayers and the miracles, the healings that are ours to receive. We stay stuck in agenda or fear-based agenda or defense or my way or the highway type thing. We miss out on so much. And being in the now, surrendering to the flow. And Lea, I was going to say that back to when you said about our lives being so parallel, both of us have been relocated for quite some time. From me since December, at least since springtime, I guess. What month was it that you journeyed up to New York? Okay, March. So March. So not only are we caring for our parents and Lee's father and both of my parents and your stepmom, of course, that we're also doing our work. We've continued with our sacred mission, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that here in just a few minutes. But it's not easy. I know that I've worked on clearing all kinds of karma, and I've talked about that several other weeks on this show, on how spirit always amazes me when we're shifted around and we're moving forward in our journey, that things come into alignment. There's always situations for the greater good. And so even like my parents are not conscious about much of what we're speaking of, but there's been so much karma cleared and things that have needed to be beyond the 3D caregiving that I was called back here to really bring to fruition. And it hasn't been an easy journey. And then, the beauty of, really recognizing that, like, my work in anchoring in these new frequencies into Earth Mother, I was out in the snow doing it, which is a little unusual. I've been in in Florida for, 28 plus years, whatever, it's over that now, 30 some, I guess. This is where I was born and raised. And so too for Lea, wherever we are, we're mobile. That's the beauty, our gifts. We are in that I am presence. We have our gifts and our abilities, and shining the light and the love wherever we go. We're just being those lighthouses emitting. And so, Lea, for you as well, up there where you've been, if you want to just tag on to that as well a little bit, or just
I'm in West Central Illinois. I grew up here in this area. It's a farm community, so there's not a lot of spirituality here. The people are lovely. It's where I grew up. People are really good. I'm glad to be from the Midwest. I'm glad that I have my own Midwestern values, and people are very kind. And yet, I don't find people of like mind. So I've always tried to mainstream myself, and yet being here. I've lived in Florida on and off since 1983, and so I'm actually a snowbird. And then I migrate back and forth. But when I come back here, I do feel the density here. I feel the limitation here, and then I find myself having a difficult time not being with my tribe and being isolated, and I don't feel vibrant. So it's difficult to be in these regions, as you know, Pam, and be isolated. And so, there is the gratitude of being able to talk with people on the telephone or have these connections. And yet, even during this pandemic, where people are isolated and separated from each other, this is really difficult on people's psyche, because people need to be together. People need to be with their tribe. People are social animals. And so that's been hard for me by being here. And yet, I found myself continuing to choose to come back to this area because it's my homeland. And yet, Florida is what I always called my adopted home. And so that's, where I feel more vibrant and more alive. And so, I'm trying to balance family versus, where I feel more vibrant is a little bit stressful. And I know, Pam, that, you're feeling the same way. And so for those who are in places where they may feel isolated, just continue to reach out and hold the space of love for yourself, and knowing that you are being supported, and that whatever reason, wherever you're located, you are a conduit of light, holding and anchoring the light in that region. And yet try to balance your life with some spirituality, so that you don't feel so disconnected from, what's happening in the world.
And those are really important points that you made. This, as we know, this 2020, and for all that it is, and it's amazing, and all the shifting and that we're doing, but it's also been very challenging and very painful at times, a lot of fear out there. And so I had talked on the Carol Ann Carey show the other week that, I've been many times, and I didn't always know it, of course, I wasn't as conscious of it, been many times placed in places that needed the light and divine love, and to help transmute the energies and the dense and the lower frequency energies in these spaces, communities, places I've worked, places I've communed. And I always call it going out into the trenches. It's not an easy task for those of you who are also light workers and healers, that are out there shining light, teachers of truth and wisdom. Like Lea said, it's an important time, and it's one of the good things of technology and social media is you see all these platforms that have come on the screen during this last this great global reset. And so one of the great joys, in June, I received a phone call from Lea, and she said, guess who's coming to see you? And I said, who? And she said, me.
Yeah. You're like, what?
So we had a wonderful little retreat together. It was just a few days, but we talked about that a little bit on the last show. We were
got
up.
a lot accomplished.
We got a lot accomplished. A lot of work. Bringing in these frequencies and with ceremony and clearings and healings. And you did a workshop here in Erie. We were up in Rock City, up in Olean, New York, with, again, our sacred sister, Joanne Gall. And I don't know if you want to share anything about that, but I wrote down some notes, Lee, because I was looking at photos and kind of went back to our first adventure together down in Florida when we went to the Alachua area. And so I wanted to look at it. Let's talk a little about that, because that was an important trip, and it also is relative to what we're receiving now, and we won't go into all that. We'll save that. Those, it feels like that's for another time. But I want to review that journey that we took up to Gainesville. I actually ended up in High Springs, and talk about spirit.
Took us 8 hours to get from Tampa to High Springs.
8 hours.
Like, what?
And
usually it's like, what, 3 hours or 2.5? I was like, what the heck?
It was crazy. It started out, and actually kind of relevant to this platform, Goldylocks Productions, which we're both so grateful to, for Tiffany and the opportunity to jump on here and share our gifts, our wisdom, etc. With Lee and I started out going up 75, heading to Gainesville. We were going to go into this Native American Brooksville, or the Gainesville Native American Festival. And I was looking forward to seeing my friends. I got a number of my Native friends, Shelly and Fabian. Really grateful and miss you guys. Haven't seen you in a while. And Sandy Buttry and Diane. Can't think of Diane's last name, but that's who we got the stones from. So we were stopped at due to construction. We pulled over. We were both getting hungry because we were still in Tampa. We've been on the road for a while. So we went to a Bonefish Grill, and the print's a little bit small. I know we've got a couple.
Yeah, I know, and I got my glasses.
So we forgot to say, but Lee and I are both on our phones is how we do this streaming. So we will.
And I need LASIK surgery.
and my shades are dark because of the sunshine. So, but we will get back, and anybody that, please do comments or questions, and we'll get back to you. And certainly after the show, we'll go back and comment. But what I was saying is, so we were just sitting in a Bonefish Grill, and we were eating lunch, and we had some conversation about perhaps doing some airtime together. Do you remember that? We were watching The View or something.
Yeah, I thought, it'd be fun to have like a spiritual view, which is what Tiffany has, on Monday here at Goldylocks.
And Lee did. Lee, you had a radio show for how many years?
I had my own radio show with Radio Ear Network for 8 years, and that platform, the show was called Inspiration from Spirit. Is the same as now, and so I did that every Tuesday at 3:00 for 8 years with Joe Dubinsky, the show producer out of Sarasota, Florida. But it was global, and there were 65 shows, and I did it for 8 years. I did it about 1.5 years with my friend Patty Starr from Sarasota, Florida, and then I wanted to do it alone, and that opportunity came. And then my show ranked number 2 out of 65 shows. So I worked my way up to number 2 out of 65 shows that were global. So when I stopped the show, the producer was shocked, but I wanted to stop it because I wanted to, it was time to put my energy and time into my book, Divine Union. And so I stopped the radio show in 2005, and then I got this book published, Divine Union, published in 2017. So anyhow, I wasn't expecting to go back onto, talk show platform. I've had people think I should. And I'm like, no, been there, done that. And then Laura Romano, the show host, had contacted me out of the blue, and I hadn't seen her for years. I'd met her up here in Illinois, and she's now in Florida, and she contacted me to be a radio host, and then Tiffany and I were just chatting before the show, and then somehow one of those things, I spit it out, "Oh, do you have room for another host?" And I was like, wasn't expecting to say that. So anyhow, again, things just sort of, again, that whole thing was synchronistic. So,
Right.
life is always interesting with the twists and the turns. So that day that we were sitting at the Bonefish Grill, I'm like, neither one of us would think, what was that, a year and a half ago?
Yeah, it was a year ago, spring sometime. So
Yeah,
it's not right.
Yeah.
Well, and then Elite called to tell me. She said, she said, well, that radio show we were talking about. I just landed. Well, and I think didn't you say I'm gonna be a guest on this show? I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, she goes, I thought I was gonna be a guest, and she goes, now I'm doing my show. I don't my own show, and I went, really? And I said, and then she gave me Tiffany's information, and I called, and same thing happened. I always joke because when I called that, I never talked to Tiffany, didn't even know about the Goldylocks platform, and Tiffany and I talked for about 2 hours that morning, and I was, waiting to see whose show I was going to be on, and from like, hello, Tiffany, it was like, oh yeah, you got your own show. She goes, they're telling me, and just let you go with the flow. So here we are, and I guess that was, a little supposed. We planted some of those seeds, and yet the universe was showing us it's coming. So here we are today, and able to show on this beautiful platform, and we invite you to check out the other hosts and their shows, including Tiffany's, and see a very diverse group that offer their gifts here on Goldylocks Productions. So, Lea, as we finally journey, we don't have time to tell the whole story, but that trip up to Gainesville, I told Lea, so we don't need to make a reservation because we were staying overnight. I said, there's plenty of hotels. They're all over this. It's a college town. There's all kinds of stuff. Well, little did we know, we drove around Gainesville for like an hour because it ended up being like it was right before graduation, I guess, that year. And it was like it was like that weekend. So there were no hotels available. And we drove around, and we were both getting, like, oh, we were tired. It was like an all day, drive to a couple hours, which should have been a couple hours. So anyways, finally I say, well, what are we doing? Going back towards Ocala. I said, maybe there's something down near Ocala. I said, there is nothing, because we were checking and calling Airbnbs, etc.
It was getting dark, and it starts getting dark. I start getting cranky.
Lea got a little cranky, and I was just going, okay, show us the way. I was, she's my co-pilot. I was driving. We get back on 75. Now we're heading south. And then I had remembered that I'd seen a place, I think it was an Airbnb. And I said to Lea, I said, look, and I found it. I gave her the number. We called, and sure enough, this person had a place available for the night.
And it was like perfect.
It was perfect. We got off to 75. We had to turn around and went north again. So we ended up in High Springs, and I have been there once or twice. It's been a long, long time. And for any of you who've been up in that area, it's such a beautiful area. So we had this perfect space that what a condensed version would be. We
like
recognized,
cabins.
Yeah, they were individual cabins on this beautiful property, and the owners were clearly the guardians of this sacred space. And
we stayed in the dolphin room.
We were in the
dolphins. Yeah, the dolphins.
The dolphin room. Yeah. And Lea, do you want to, I don't remember. We stayed, again, we extended our stay. We were only going to stay one night, and then we ended up staying two. But I know that we, if you can recall, I have it even recorded somewhere, but Lea channels Christ every morning and gets her download. And it was such a beautiful morning. I was going to go out and sit on the porch and have my cup of tea or whatever. And I was getting into sacred space, and I went out for a while. I came, and Lea goes, Christ is coming in, and wants to give us a message. Right. And so then, do you remember, it was the whole thing on the codes in Atlantis? If you want to pick up from there, if you remember.
I don't, for those, I don't remember. I just remember it was about Atlantis. So when I channel a lot. And so things go in and things go out, and I don't always, hold the memory. So I don't know, maybe you remember more than I do. I remember it was on Atlantis, and that area was a part of Atlantis.
Yeah, that
And
was.
I don't remember. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. And some of the pictures I posted, those of you that are watching or will watch, if you want to look at those photos I put up on my Facebook page, you can see some pictures from that very trip. So what Christ had, given us was that this, it was the heart up there in that High Springs area. It was the heart of Atlantis. And we were, before we were at the powwow, Native American Festival, and we purchased from a friend of mine who's a vendor there, the, what are the stones, Lee? The
I don't remember what they're called. Yeah, they're
Shiva. The Shiva stones, right?
Oh, Shiva stones, yeah. Yeah, those brown stones, yeah.
We had been guided to pick these up, and we didn't, this was before Lee channeled this information. So there we are the next morning, and we were thinking we were heading back to the St. Pete area that afternoon. Well, we had a little assignment. So we were to go out to the waters, the natural springs there, and to anchor in. We had been infused with these Atlantean, the codes, and Christ had asked us to go out and anchor in these energies. So we went out to the waterway with these Shiva stones, and we did just that. So
we did a little video. I remember we did a little video, and I didn't remember where we were, and we started laughing. I was like, "Where are we?"
Yeah, it's up
you
there.
posted it.
It's up there. So we always have
fun. We always have lots of fun when these adventures are always so fun.
We do. You remember Gran, your guide was
yes.
He was guiding us and taking care of us. You remember we had the little tire check, and there's a whole lot of fun just along the adventure. But we were maneuvered like many times. We thought we were going here and had to be there by that time, and spirits, oh no, you're going to go here, and here's how it's going to just then be with ease and grace and all orchestrated, so we could do what we needed to do and have fun and have an enjoyable weekend.
And it all worked out. So there was the irritation I had of like, oh, we don't have a place to stay. And I'm like, usually I'll go with the flow. But if it starts getting dark, I'm like, I got to have a place to stay if it gets dark. But it was just perfectly orchestrated. So if we can learn to let go of the control and allow spirit to guide us, then we can have what I call these great adventures and have more spontaneity and impulsivity and be less controlling. And we have to figure it out. We can, we'll be guided by our internal spirit as well as great spirit to do what we need to do. And it's difficult to live that way. And I know that I probably said this before. I don't know if I've said it on the show, but I might have said it to you, Pam. But my sister doesn't fully understand all this. And so she's like, she says that people think you're, I don't know how she said it, that people in my family think I'm dingy or whatever it was. But she says, things always seem to work out for you. And, I'm like, well, I have spirit working with me, so that's why it works out. But it's like, she thinks that, I'm, I guess, impulsive and I don't have a plan and, things are not organized. No, I shouldn't say organized because I'm organized, but I just allow spirit to work through me. So she doesn't understand that piece and she judges it as dingy or unorganized or whatever the words are. But I just laughed. I just like, well, whatever. I have no need to explain to her. So
right.
This is an example of how that works.
And there's so many of us, who are around, whether it be family members or colleagues in the workplace or, as we go walk about our regular days where people may not be aware and not understand. And it's quite a, journey of standing in your truth and in that power, that I am presence, and, and honoring to where other people are. That's the mastery, being able to be here and assisting again at this time of this great awakening, this paradigm shift, and, still staying true to who we are and what we're here to do, and shining the light and love and peace, bringing the peace in as the peacemakers. So, Lee, I wanted to, I know time just flies by. I wanted to
on the perch.
On the perch. That's right. I wanted Lee has already referenced, and I know I've talked about it on my show in the past. This is Lee's amazing work, and I finally have completed it. I'm not much of a front to back book reader, and yet this
But
one,
it's easy to read.
oh, it's so easy, and I wasn't doubting that because I picked it up a couple of months ago when I got it from Lee, and I knew it was important for me to read for a number of reasons in my personal life, my personal journey. And I wanted to focus on this book a little bit because it is such an amazing work. I told Lee when I finished it the other night, I said, wow, I finally finished your book, and thank you, and thank you. And what, I always tell Lee that she is a pioneer, and when it comes, to her life work, her soul work here. She started this, 27 years ago, is it fair to say, with your
Yep.
teachings and your bringing your gifts to assist others at a time when there weren't so many people awakened and conscious. And so how brave and how courageous for, I know there's others. And, my awakening took place, not as long ago. And I know that we can controversial because of people's belief systems and understandings are still so limited, and yet there's so many who are seeking our gifts, our wisdoms, our teachings now. That's why it's another wonderful to have these platforms so that more and more people can see, and they might even just hear a few minutes and go, wow, there's something there that's attracting me and I don't know what it is. So Lee, I would why don't you, if I didn't mention to you, but what I'd like you to do is just maybe tell me or tell the viewers. Sometimes it's just you and me. There's a whole bunch of people out there with us.
Nobody's listening.
We're still having fun.
I'll tell you all the secrets.
What I want to say, you want to just maybe talk a little bit about how you were guided, how Christ and Mary Magdalene maybe guided you. And then I wanted to read I wanted to do the honors if it was okay to read page 1 and 2. So I think I have you speak first, and then I want to read that, and then we can go from there just a little bit maybe.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, back in 2003, Christ instructed me to channel this book called The 12 Master Teachings of Christ. And so these are all channeled teachings of Christ. These are the essence of his teachings that he taught over 2,000 years ago. So I put that and published that in 2005. And then I forget what year, because it all blends together, because this book took me a while. But then he asked me to write the second book about the love story of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. I had to sit on that because for me, I had to reconcile, even though I'd written the other book, I had to reconcile that this was the love story and that they were twin flames. And in the story, Jesus did not die on the cross, that he lived on. He married Mary Magdalene, had a family, and continued on with his mission work. And so I had to really reconcile, did I have the courage or the strength to be able to do this? And so that took me some time to reconcile that. And then whenever it was, like I said, I've worked on it probably for 3 years. And then in 2016, I went to Mount Shasta, California, and was guided to the Divine Union Etheric Temple, where the Etherians, what I'm talking about, the Lemurians had an etheric temple that I was guided to or told about. That was the Divine Union Temple, where the Lemurians married in this energy there on the ridge in Lake Chastina outside of Weed, California. And so after I did that ceremony at the Divine Sacred Union Etheric Temple, I came back to Illinois, and then I came back to Florida, and I got the impetus to finish the book. And then within 5 months, I had completed the book. So I know that whatever happened there, I got either downloaded or activated or recharged to be able with the Divine Union energy from the Lemurians and from Mount Shasta, the mountain, to help me finish it. So it came about really because I am an oracle for them, and so they wanted this piece of their story to come forward. I'm not going to elaborate too much longer, but it really is about their personal emotions. And because I'm a psychotherapist, this book is narrated and channeled from Mary Magdalene's perspective and Jesus' perspective about their life together and how they dealt with their own emotions through their own meeting and through their divine plan and through their life's journey in the crucifixion and after the crucifixion. So it really is an emotional story from their perspective.
It's so beautiful and so powerful. And I think, like, all works and all offerings, that when one is ready to receive, then it comes. And so for me, I've shared in the past, I was born and raised Catholic. And as I've expanded to remembering, what was in alignment and what was not in alignment with my truth of my soul, years forward now, there's a lot of answers that I wouldn't have been able to receive. And I have a very personal relationship with Jesus, with Christ, and Mary Magdalene, the Holy Family. And so, even when I met Lea, I knew, I can feel, and I would just, for those of you who are looking at things or teachers or experiences, you will know, follow your guidance in your heart, not from your head, and be open and let this be your guide, your heart. So I would like to read, as I said, this second page, and it is, let's get there. Excuse me. So
you're going to read the preface?
No. What'd you say?
You're going to read the preface, or what are you going to read?
No, I felt guided before we went on the air that just opened right to chapter 1. Yeah.
Oh, chapter 1.
So narrated by Yeshua, Jesus the Christ.
Mm-hmm.
It says, love, it can be so powerfully moving, magnificent to experience, mystical in its inner workings, even so deeply magical that its effect upon our lives can seem beyond belief at times. There are loves and there are great loves. And then there are the greatest loves of all time. So miraculous in so many ways that they have the ability to change the course of history itself. There is none other than that kind of love, making this one of the greatest love stories of all time. The love story of myself, Yeshua, known to many of you as Jesus the Christ, and my dearly beloved twin flame, Mary Magdalene. The version of our story that you are about to experience firsthand, dear ones, is unique among all other stories ever written about us because it has been narrated from our very own perspective. This is the story of our journeys throughout the course of our lives. First as treasured childhood friends, and then as passionately bonded husband and wife, candidly expressed to you in our own words. We have chosen to lend our very own voices to our story at this time in history to awaken humanity to the truth of our sacred partnership as twin flames. For what has been portrayed about our lives historically has unfortunately been inaccurate in many accounts. We ask that you enjoy our love story with an open heart and an open mind as we finally unveil what has been hidden from mankind for over 2,000 years. Shall I begin? And I get God bumps, as I call them. So, Lea, what, you kind of take it from there on what you want to share about, you bringing this through. And I don't know if you want to talk about, your part of the Holy Family, what all you want to, we don't want to give too much away, but whatever you would like to share, please.
Well, I do remember when I first started channeling the Holy Family back in 1997, I thought, why are they coming to me? Because I thought, well, I'm not Catholic and I'm not religious, but I was a metaphysical student. And so I didn't really fully understand why they were coming because I'd been channeling for 4 years. So, I was still really relatively new. But as it came to find out, I lived in the lifetime of Christ. I was Christ's cousin and was raised by Mother Mary and was Mary Magdalene's best friend. And so that was why they were coming to me to share their story. And because I was intimately involved with them and knew them as their cousin and was a part of that inner circle, as one of Christ's female disciples, there were 12 female disciples, I knew the story. So that was why I was called to write this book. And so it's so amazing because I do have some past life memories of myself as known as Elizabeth, where I remember sitting with Mother Mary in the garden and me listening to her and being taught by her. And then I also have a memory of helping Christ in the tomb as Elizabeth after the crucifixion. And prior to writing this book, maybe, I don't know how many years ago, 15 years ago or whatever, I was at a Celebrate Your Life conference, and there was this is so interesting, there was this is in my book, infusing the fire of life back into Joshua after the crucifixion. Elizabeth had called in what we call the fire of life back into his body to resurrect himself. And I was at this conference, and I was asked to share Mary Magdalene's teachings, and then it never happened. And so I thought, why am I not, why is this lady not letting me speak? So somebody was sitting next to me. She goes, well, I thought you were supposed to speak. I said, no, it never happened. So at the end of the class, it was a couple days workshop, we all came together in a circle, and one of the young ladies there had cancer. I guess she had terminal cancer. And so they were going to do a healing on her. And so they had her on the stage. There was a guy with a great big gong, and then some people were going to do Reiki on her. And my husband and I were in the back, and all of a sudden something came over me, and I started breaking through the crowd and ran to the stage. And my voice, Don didn't know I had left. And then I'd gone through the crowd. It was like I was in a trance, sort of, ran to the crowd, to the front. And all of a sudden, this big booming voice came out of me that says, breathe in the fire of life. Came out of my voice, breathe in the fire of life. Just like with Jeshua in the book, with Elizabeth igniting the fire of life into Jeshua. I did not know about this while I was doing this. This was years later that I wrote the book and it came out. But this happened to me prior to the story of the book. And it was like, excuse me, but, what the heck happened here? And I'm like breathing in this energy. She's laying, like on the stage. I remember at that time, Meg Blackburn-Losey was there, who wrote Children of Now and several of her books. And she was like the keynote person there. And she was doing the Reiki, and she's standing next to me. And then she looked at me and backed off. And the guy with the gong looked at me, and he looked freaked out. And I'm like, breathe in the fire of life. And the girl just, was doing as I instructed, and everybody backed away. And I turned around, and then Don heard my voice, I guess, and looked or realized I was gone. And then I was, and the whole thing was surreal. And I was like, and then,
Wow.
I was just like, after it was over, it was like, oh my God, what did I do? And then, but I know that it was an opportunity to resurrect this girl for her soul to choose to live. I found out later she did pass away, but for whatever reason, the Holy Spirit, the energy of Elizabeth, whoever it was, came through me and did that. And then, so in my chapter that I love so much, where Elizabeth is in the tomb, calling in the fire of life, I should know the chapter, but I don't know the chapter.
You're at chapter 10, page 91.
Oh, okay. That came through, when I was channeling. Then I realized that's what I had done for this girl, to give her an opportunity to live again for her soul and her, so I wondered, why she had passed away. I had heard she had, but that whole experience was wild. And then, Don didn't know I was gone. I was standing next to him. Next thing he looks over, I'm gone here. He hears my voice, even though it was indistinguishable, but he knew it was me for some reason. I look over, I'm gone. He was like, we were like all freaked out because I've never had anything like that before. I've heard voices, but that was probably one of the most powerful experiences I've had, besides my time in Egypt, where 2 years ago I was in the Pyramid of Giza, and I channeled Isis and Christ during that time, anchoring and bringing in the divine feminine energy and new light codes in through the Pyramid of Giza. And so that was a wild experience. That's on my YouTube channel. But this thing was crazy.
And I, somewhere along the line, when after we first met and we got the sharing, you told me this story. And now that I've read the book, it has more relevance. But as you're speaking, I always receive my validation, and I don't, need it when it comes to you. But they were showing me, I'm sure, Christ, Mary Magdalene, Elizabeth, Essence of Elizabeth, the validation. I can just feel that all up and down my body. I have the God bumps and the tingles. So, again, I encourage. It's fascinating. I encourage anyone who hasn't already found Lea's YouTube. She's got an amazing archive there, and her website. Check that out. And again, her book, Divine Sacred Union, that we're just speaking of now, plus the 12 Masteries from Christ. Both of these books, in the back,
and these are on audiobook too. These are audiobook and Kindle and print form.
Awesome.
So you can get these on audiobook on my website at leachapin.com.
And there's a nice, these are more than, of course, just a story and tools at this time when so many sacred unions are starting to take place, twin flame relationships, old sacred soul relationships as well. And because those twins, of course, there's great work to be done by the twins as they come together. We are all balancing the divine masculine and feminine within us, that balance. So too in our relationship, if those of us who have twin flames, sacred soul connections, contracts to, at this time, also to help Earth Mother, but also to help humanity in this great time of change. So we have, there's a lot of value in this sacred text, as I'm going to call it. At the back, there's a bonus section. It's called The 12 Tools of Enlightenment, narrated by Yeshua. And I looked through that the other day, and it was interesting because, as I mentioned earlier, I know, certainly even from my ongoing childhood, I've always felt close to Jesus. And so I know that even before I've read Lee's book, part of my activation and leveling up in my work, as I was reading these 12 sacred tools, Lee, it was like, oh, I'm already doing a lot of these, and I may not have understood why, but it was just natural. I'm sure he's been guiding me, and Mary Magdalene. Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that you mentioned recently, and then when I read it in the book, it is part of the activations that I'm bringing in with this, with these new earth energies and the love, divine love and peace with the star chakra. Do you want to talk? You want to just speak on that real quick, or the star chakra? So through the soles of our feet is connecting with Earth Mother, and the reason that is so important, and my recognizing that's what I'm helping with my clients and people who choose to have sessions with me, and I can do it from a distance. You don't have to be in my physical location. Is that as we are all, our frequencies are all rising, and those of us that are doing it with intent, we have to make sure that we're staying here on the earth plane. And so we have to stay grounded, and through the work of, like through the star chakra, it's one of the things I'm doing to help people to stay grounded here on the earth plane as we are ascending at the soul level. And going up to these frequencies coming in are just really powerful. So I'm looking at my clock going, we're almost out of time here. But, again, for anyone, those of you who are just finding Lee now, perhaps today, or maybe you've seen some of her work and feeling guided to pick up her books, her teachings, again, YouTube, website. And she's a show host on Mondays at 2. Is that right? 2 o'clock, Lee? No,
yes.
1.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
At 2 o'clock Eastern.
2 o'clock Eastern. Mm-hmm. And, the teachings and so much more to come. And Lee, do you want to give anything less than a minute?
Oh, I just wanted to let everybody know that I also do channeled readings, not just with Mary Magdalene Jeshua, but I also work with the Ascended Masters, and I'm in a versatile channel. So if you have any issues that you'd like to have clarity with from a higher perspective, that's what I do. I do individual readings as well as, my show host work, my author work, my classes. But that's primarily what I do, is working with people either through primarily on the telephone. And do work with people in person. But also, we are going to start doing master classes here at Goldylocks Productions. And I got the hit today that I'm going to teach the 12 tools of enlightenment. So every month, I teach one of the lessons from the 12 Mastery Teachings. And I got the hit today that I would be teaching the master class, the 12 Tools of Enlightenment from my book. So stay tuned to that. I know our time is up. Thank you, Pam. I'm grateful. Namaste to you. Thank you, Tiffany. And you do a great job, Pam. You're a great host. So thank you for being you. So love you, honey. Okay, bye-bye.
Blessings to all. Blessings to all.
Become a Goldylocks Productions VIP patron. Receive exclusive access to live stream special and other epic perks. Join the Goldylocks Productions VIP community today.